Hey there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to my self-empowerment update. This topic will not be one of the easiest one, but it's definitely a most needed one at this time. And since we're going through an intense shift, it's affecting us all. So this topic will be about self-protection and learning about some things that they're still affecting us, especially if we don't have a clue about them, if we don't even know they exist. So I've been talking to some people, and during the course of my own experiences of the late, which brought up a lot of intensity as into what's coming up and through the dark portals as well, and I'll explain a bit more what that is and how this actually takes place when the portals are opening. And as you know, this was an immense time of portal activity here on the planet with alignments that were, they were off the charts. So first of all, I want to give you a bit of explanation what takes place during those portal activations, how we can empower ourselves, and then I want to give you some external resources that are not my own, because there's a lot of Ascension guides that deal each specifically with our own, purpose that we have at hand. We can't all do everything, so we have specific focuses. And I want to introduce you to the work of Lisa Renee, if you don't yet know or have heard about her, because she shares more in that note. There's a lot of things that people still like to hide on this note, and they're afraid of these things. And she likes to say that it's time to demystify this, because it's not belonging to a realm of illusion only and us imagining it, and it's all nice and fluffy and fine and cuddly and wuddly. And sometimes this path of ascension really is the path of utmost courage. And when we are still in that process of owning our inner light, when we go through these portal activations and activating our inner portals, there's going to be lots of things happening. I always like to say that they're almost like our initiations in a way, because they test us in our own self-mastery. We can be such an aware soul, but when we come into this human body lineage, especially the star-seeded ones, and there's this same level of work out here that needs to be utilized in the body, in the human body form. And she also shares about, how it depends on what kind of family lineage you enter into in your incarnation. And even though you might not have a reference from past lives here on this planet, you still enter a body that has a certain geometric structure and it has a certain biological structure, that when you start to empower yourself, you start to change. But there's also external forces of change acting in a reality, and it's time for us to get more empowered in that note, because we like to say we know love is going to solve everything, it's all love. Yes, it is in unity consciousness, but remember that we're still in transition years, and it's going to last for a while. And during those transition years, it's going to be our time to master this embodiment process, because there were external forces that were actually working a lot in terms to kidnap the whole process, to abduct it. And the whole purpose was to stream the course of events into their own design reality that they envisioned. But we came here, especially the star-seeded ones and the volunteer souls, to pave the way for the new reality when a human becomes self-awakened and self-empowered, so that the moment when you start to be aware of what really takes place is the moment you gain power. When you gain power and when you start to share it with others, especially outwardly in a very courageous way, which people were doing in the past times as well. We have many courageous stories of warriors, especially a lot of female martyrs. They became martyrs later, but they were actually spiritual warriors, and they were always persistent on their path, and they were having to go through many initiations, and these forces were always there. But what's taking place now is that we're becoming more aware of it. There's still kind of like this, especially in the new age, this tendency to keep that aside and to kind of put it under a carpet. But anything that you're not really physically aware of, with your physical senses as well, which means not just your 5 basic senses you think you are composed of, but all of your basic senses and your soul awareness. And when you do so, you will see that there's many more things that maybe just your mind tells you that are here. And because we're becoming more aware of that, the manipulation is greater as well, because it's working in its own favor. And remember, it's almost like you're trying to break free from all of that. And as you're expanding yourself and as you're pushing through those resistances, these resistances also in a way sometimes try to push back. But this cannot be dealt with by raw force only. but through deep self-empowerment, through discernment of what's taking place, developing your inner vision, developing your higher senses, and then clearly observing what's taking place, and then taking action that is your own natural spirit protection, that is the alignment with the universal law of one, the unity principle of one, and then really seeing all that tries to enter your sacred space by force. And we had a lot of this happening recently. People share this with me as well. There's a lot of people who are dealing with psychic phenomena now, psychic attacks, voices telling them different things, just things like that. And a lot of the times in the New Age, people will say, well, that's fine, it's just a level and they're not aware of, it's really just an illusion. It's not true. These things are really happening, and I'll explain a bit more then why this is so and how this takes place. And then I won't go deeper into it because it's already so beautifully shared in Lisa Renee's page called Energetic Synthesis. So if you want to empower yourself further, I really recommend her page, because after the recent events here in my own life, Spirit guided me again to take a look into that, and to kind of also introduce this to my group, to those of you who are tuning into my videos. And it's really important. Spirit said it's really urgent because it's taking place a lot now, because the portal activity is so intense. Okay, let me start with a brief update and what this means. So I remember years back when I started with my awakening, I encountered Lisa's work, and then I did my own things. But before that, I remember a specific thing that she said about anything that is coming in your reality from the external senses. Even if you say I hear voices, I see visions, can be manipulated. And I agreed, because my own level of how I received through Spirit was always internal knowing, and she calls this knowing, inner knowing, and cellular remembering. And anything that tries to manipulate you in that way, that maybe a part of it is authentic, but then there's also a part that is not, we can only really awaken to when we know all of ourselves. And this is taking place with the activation of our multidimensional selves. There may be sometimes parts of us that we're not fully aware of, and remember that which you don't know of, that has the power to manipulate you. That is why the only real change here is to have knowledge, because knowledge brings power. With knowledge, you can stand naked in front of everything without fear, seeing that it's there, and knowing how these forces work. And when you have knowing and understanding, nothing can really take place, because you are empowered. You have knowledge about it. You see patternings of it, and then you see how you can actually, with clear observation and dedication to unity consciousness and working for of course, in the law of one, then you know your own divine sovereignty, that it's what takes place. So besides those things, I also remember how she shared this basic, almost like a decree that really resonated with me, and that was, I'm God, I'm sovereign, and I'm free. And of course, you can develop it further, because I'm going to show you my own, and we will do at the end this invocation to really be aligned with the universal oneness and the frequency of true love. Because what I see is that a lot of times people say that the portals are all light and everything that's light. Yes, the mass outpouring of light is there, but there's also ways, because we don't understand everything that takes place galactically. There's these loopholes as well, and there's also different other portals that come out. And I remember she also shared that that as much light as awakens, as much darkness resurfaces as well. That is why when you have these profound shifts in our awareness, sometimes we're also followed up by things mirroring something like the opposite of that to us. And because we're moving into unity, that in a way almost like needs to take place, because if we wouldn't have any triggers, sometimes we would really be lazy in our progression, in our evolution. The human race was already sleeping for so long. All this knowledge was already available. Everything was known. And this was specifically designed that there were a certain group of a certain races of beings, which we said they were the fallen ones, because they didn't follow the law of one. They rebelled, and they said, well, we're going to follow our own laws, and we'll be worshipped, and we will be gods in terms of worship and power, and using that power to feed off of powers of others by stealing their power. But that, remember, cannot take place once you know your power and your potential as the creator self. So the first step is realizing your nature as a creator, and as well the galactic story that was unfolding since forever, since the dense realms of experiences were being explored. And what takes place is that now during the shift in this ascension time is that each portal also brings almost like these loopholes that then these energies can enter through. And since they can't directly incarnate as, you know, their own selves, they usually work through the people, through the beings that are not in their power, but sometimes, especially the individuals who are either mentally ill, they have a distorted view of reality, or they're engaging in dense, you know, lower things. They're maybe themselves engaging in these lower scenarios, or they're abusing sexuality, and they're abusing, you know, everything that is in sense dense, that is not pure. Then this energy is almost like used that another force can work through you. So what actually takes place is that we have individuals who actually become channels. Lisa calls them dark portals, and I would agree because it's what it is. I know it sounds scary, but in truth, nothing is scary, because remember, even that is a part of the natural progression and learning about the nature of everything that was taking place. But now we're coming into a culmination of this age, but that doesn't mean that this culmination will happen on its own. We're in the process of when we're getting this knowledge back through self-empowerment. And when that happens is, usually I'm going to share my own experiences with you, that when I really had a profound shift and I knew that I was upgraded in frequency through the level of devotion and my own spiritual inner strengthening of my energy that I created through awareness that came through with each upgrade, that when I expanded a bit more, I always got almost like a direct response from the external reality of these dark entities that you might call different names. You know, they're all not belonging maybe to the same group, but whatever it is, the whole process is to feed off of energy of power of light of another in order to survive. Because when you subtract yourself from the law of one, you actually divide yourself from God force, from true love. And in essence, therefore, there's nothing left for you but then to feed off the energy of another. So then people come and they share with me, wow, voices are telling me angels are evil, this and that. I'm having experiences with, many people either hear voices or they're being told what to do, or they're just being scared in a way. There's energy of fear trying to be shown to them. And what this means is that when you're really starting to awaken, but you're not yet fully in your 12th dimensional awareness self, in your whole totality self, in your wholeness, you might have these experiences because you haven't yet in your body claimed all of those parts of you. So like Lisa shared, it's this phenomena and the psychic attacks and all of this will cease to exist. But we're still in this transition period. When we see it, it's still happening. It's not really aware of us to say, these people who are having these experiences are either mental or they're not really awake and they're imagining. A lot of people who are hearing these voices, they're not imagining. These voices are real, but they're not really voices of their own soul. So she shares a lot about how to recognize these beings. For example, if a person is being controlled and they have a force running through them that's not their own, usually they have a very, almost like a living dead kind of feature. They look alive, but their eyes are almost like very black, lifeless. Even how they hold themselves, their posture, there's nothing lively about them. And as I've shared with you, when we have this stalker example now, there was immediately apparent in the persona, and it was very much felt what is behind the scenes of the persona itself. So when we attune to these higher senses, we will be shown what is actually the energy working behind the scenes and what it wants from us. But of course, we're not going to give it that power. That's the thing. A lot of us especially who are engaged in this, sharing this publicly, who are empowering ourselves to empower others, to share this as the truth, we're especially being attacked because we're doing a good job, we're doing good work. And in my personal experiences, I've had a lot of this, but I want to also move to the aspect of when you have in your dream states these experiences. In my own reality, I remember there was a specific period of time when I was more in my awakening stage. I had these nightly scenarios, and a few times, maybe 3 times, I had this sleep paralysis. When we have these conferences on alternate state of consciousness and that, they actually propagate that as normal and these out-of-body experiences and all of that. I'm actually not really prone to that because, like Lisa shared, it's time to claim your space even before going to bed. and you actually command your sacred space before you do anything, because you're clearly saying that you're God, you're sovereign, you're free, and this is your space, and none of the beings have the right to enter it. They still will try. But the thing is that they will try through these loopholes, and the loopholes show you where you're still not in your power. Maybe you're overly kind. Maybe you don't have these healthy boundaries. Maybe you still have a part of you that fears sharing so publicly or being so openly, outwardly out there. And yet, this is what they would desire, because if nobody shares about this, then this remains hidden underneath, and this is not clearly our purpose here with the shifting realities and with people gaining back the galactic awareness that's really here. And it's always been here for us, but there was a lot of things that were hidden and buried from us. And you know, with this ignorant age, it was almost like, okay, you know, after the ignorance, what followed was this immense flooding of information, and not all of it true. So there you are again. Okay, now I have information, but what of it is true? This is all kind of almost like pushing us to enter the state that we have enough. And when you have enough, sometimes you will be tested to your limits. You will see that there's nothing else to do but really, really develop and work in yourself, because you're not really, you're sovereign, and you're actually very naive when you say, ah, that can happen to me, or I'm always protected by the light anyway. When you are fully love, which we are already, but in the body form, remember, we're still in this third shifting frequency, moving on to the fifth, and yet this is a passageway. And especially when there's almost like a moving through the doorways, that's going to be increased activity of that which was before almost like hidden, like I said. So it's not that maybe it's increasing and it's more dramatic or drastic, but it's just becoming apparent. So maybe for a while there was these covert ways of how the energies manipulated different beings, and they were so hidden, and people just lived their very you know, much ordinary reality, and they never felt anything happening, although it did. So what's really taking place is here that we're actually now regaining that sovereignty. We're actually remembering these things, but not feeling fear about it. Because remember, each time something happens, that Spirit's showing you, look, be more observant. This is still something, a strength you need to develop. Be more discerning. These are all things to strengthen an energetic body form. So she also provides a beautiful 12-dimensional shield work of energy protection. I've always shared this with you, and it's true that when you are nothing but pure love, nothing can penetrate you, nothing can work against you, because you walk with the law of one, and you walk in unity with masters, angels, and guides, and in galactic awareness, and in law of oneness. But it's a very, like I said, it's very much a process. You might not find yourself, okay, just because I know I am this, doesn't mean you fully embody it. And what we're doing now is we're bringing all of these multidimensional parts of us in our body form. And maybe there was a part of us that we weren't yet fully aware of. And maybe it was even dominated by other forces until you say, wait a minute, this is mine. I'm claiming it. It's a part of me. And that's all. It's nothing scary, actually, because most things that why we don't want to so much share on this note, and she also shares that there's almost like a fear surrounding this topic. And that's why everything that deals with the true nature of reality and creatrix and the creation of all living things through Holy Spirit has been put almost like in a prosecution mode. And it's been feared like, ooh, this is demonic, because it's revering all life in creation and nature and the elements and so on. This is so true, because these are actually the forces that are a part of our soul alchemy. These are actually forces of how you become your inner magician. So when you're in that state, nothing can penetrate you. But if you have a violation, whether it's sexual, whether it's just someone entering your sacred space uninvited, remember, your sexual organs are all portal, because our sexual energies are creative energy. And when somebody sexually abuses you, it's actually soul abuse. They're actually imprinting on your soul with the things that are not really yours. They're not of your own soul frequency. And it's a strict violation in terms of galactic consciousness. So what's taking place is nothing can violate us unless we are aware of it and allow it. So if we allow it, it's going to continuously, take place. Like the people who say, well, the government will take care of it, this will be taken care of, but they never actually put any action, because they have forgotten where the true power lies within. And it's very important that we start to realize how our body makeup works, how it's comprised of these sacred portals in our body, to rever them, to not just give them off, to not just share your greater generosity and kindness and openness with everybody without first activating your higher senses beyond your 5 basic senses. So without those senses, you can't really see. You're not tapping into your whole psychic makeup, which means that a lot of the time, the external manipulation that came through these artificial components that actually want to close off our inner psychic center was specifically designed to, especially the indigo generation, that was actually almost like putting it to sleep, because they hold immense gifts of vision, of prophecy, of of seeing, of seership, and then this. So it's all almost like pushing us to become more aware and to work with that. So when you work with the aspect of light, remember to also know the aspect of dark, because they're in creation. None of it, and how to say this, nothing is always as it seems to be. Only when you truly are a master of yourself, you will see things as they are, not how you think they are, but how they really are in truth. And a lot of times, when I see people saying certain things or sharing certain things, maybe even when you look at an individual and you see what they don't see in them, like the force is working through, and people, they don't always see. And all I can do is observe, because it's not really my own development. All I can do is just share, and everybody needs to do their own inner research. Everybody needs to educate themselves. Everybody needs to find their own inner sovereignty and claim their own I am. So sometimes, like I said, I see that individuals they're looking at everything, and all the videos are information without any discernment. For them, everything is nice, everything is love, everything is lovely. Even as in terms of Ascension guides, I recommended Lisa to you, but there's a lot of people who advertise themselves as Ascension guides, but their energy is not really of that origin. So there's also a lot of camouflaging present in our planet right now. I know not everybody will be pleased with me saying this, but it's just how it is. And when you have this inner seership develop, you will see when the energy of coming through someone is lifeless. It doesn't come through the sacred breath of life of the Creator Self. And you will see that there's something inside that feels it's not of the origin of the being that says it's that being. So it's not so much of your own importance and your growth, but it is of that importance to show you, where are you still trusting everything you're seeing? Remember, you can only trust the purity of Source, and where the Source flow through you. You are the vessel. Next important step, shielding. I recommended the 12-dimensional shielding with Lisa. There's also other things. I work with the white column, the pillar of white mother light. Also, what you can do, like I said, before going to bed, as she shared, the commanding your space, but not just when you go to bed. Anywhere you go, maybe you go to the beach or into nature and you doze off there a bit and you move into other realms and realities, and you still feel like you have experiences that make you almost like not skeptic, but sometimes paranoid. If these feelings come, then definitely there's something there. Recently, I think she made a video, and there was a group of women there who shared their own experiences with their own altered states in the sleeps, and then how their own soul progression and development in the body as expansion, how they move through that. And I shared with you that in my own raising of awareness and then bringing that physically, grounding in the body, if you stay here all the time, you're not doing really all the work you need to do in embodiment, because the whole nature of this, of Ascension, is to bring the light of your Christ itself, of your inner crystals, the universal Christ light, through your individualized Christ light into your physical body makeup, into form. So in my example, when I began more awake and alert through discernment as well, not just by being so loving and open, then these things I had sometimes in my sleep, they ended. And then I remember one day I asked, but what's happening? I no longer have this. And then Spirit said, but that's a good thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes we forget. And sometimes people who are just beginning to awaken, but they don't yet have the wisdom about what's really taking place, they get so excited about their psychic activity in terms of astral plane experiences, which are not the higher planes of existence. Remember that. Clearly know the difference. Ask your soul to show you. If you don't want to see, just ask your soul to show you how the difference in feeling when you go to sleep, and then start commanding your space, that it's yours, and start commanding your mastery desires, what you desire, when you also, not just when you live, but when you go to sleep. That's a part of your experience as well. And I want to share an upgraded version for me, how it works for me. Not just when you feel violated or there's a psychic attack. Remember, psychic attack is not just when you feel an energy possesses you or really you hear voices. A psychic attack is also when somebody, like I said, it's somebody invades your space, like it happened for us last week. The being just barged into our apartment. It was like shock. And that's also a psychic attack. A psychic attack is also verbal abuse, when maybe it's not just physically people, but you can also sense, you will sense the energy. I sense the energy, and I feel it's not even coming from people. They're just used as channels for these energies to work through. They're kind of, I always see them, Spirit always shows me, they're kind of like throwing stones at you to try to irritate you, to push you off your path. But when you're in your sovereign self and you know that you serve the divinity of all and the light of unity consciousness, then even that will be just a minor irritation that won't just flee by you doing like this, but when you become more grounded, more educated in terms of really owning your power, then it will slowly start to exist, like I said, like she also shared. And you will notice that sometimes it's also abuse online. It happens, you know, you get threats with emails. I remember one cycle of expansion I had was very huge, and I even did research on these things. The next day I woke up, I had 3 signals like this, and I said, what is this now? And Spirit said, well, this resistance to the energy of your expansion. So what's actually taking place with our expansion is just, okay, we just expand and that's it. There's always, until we're still in the shifting period, there's also always a little bit of push-up back, a little resistance that doesn't really come from us, but it comes from this external reality that was so much in the matrix, that was so manipulated and distorted that we will feel it. And then with your empowered life, then you, through the power of that unity consciousness, knowing yourself as a God sovereign, you move through it. Not by pushing against it, not, you know, like I said, resistance itself is not unity. It creates more resistance. So my mantra, my decree would be, as a follow-up to Lisa's, is I am God, I'm sovereign, and I'm free. I serve the law of one, and everything and everyone and all of the energies that do not serve the principle of one, the law of one, may now move away from my space. I claim my sovereign self right here, right now. I take back the full power to become the living Christ self. And I am God. I am that I am. So anything that works for you would really be beneficial. And it's really time to educate ourselves. I see a lot of people who maybe have more issues than this. She shared that sometimes it's because it depends what kind of DNA lineage you incarnate into. So maybe some star-seeded ones have more of this than others. It really depends. Also in your own soul stamina, how strong you are. There was many souls who couldn't handle it, who maybe even exited this plane of existence. You know, yesterday we did research. My mom was reading some online articles that actually described what people sometimes do when they have stalkers or these negative energies impacting them. Some of the beings, they were moving, they were changing their whole lives. Some of them even committed suicide, you see. So that's really, they kind of couldn't deal with this whole resistance that came back at them. And it's time. We have this knowledge now. We have this power. We have the innate wisdom not to fear any of this. Think of it like someone constantly poking you like this. Are you going to allow it? You're going to see it. You know, it won't just go away when somebody continuously does this to you. It will get more and more annoying. You see it. You are detached. You stay in your God sovereignty, but you also do something about it. Which means that you will empower yourself further. You will see what is the aspect that maybe you didn't yet fully embrace and fully embody, because it is all about embodiment of this light. So this is what I wanted to share in this video, not on the easiest of subject, but remember, still, all is love, no matter what it looks like, no matter what we're moving through. And those of us who are doing this consciously in our own internal embodiment means that we have the power to do so. That's why we're the first ones doing it. You can expect somebody who doesn't have this knowledge yet, who hasn't yet returned to their inner Christ self, in terms of awareness that can actually do this work. That's why we're doing this. And as you're doing it, you're putting out ripples and waves, and you're empowering others as well. And if you feel there's a limitation to this coming from the outside world, don't bow down to it. I have many examples, and I don't even want to go into them, but they never ever prevented me from putting myself out there, from now stopping to do what I do just because I would be in fear. There is also a lot of brave individuals who did that, and whatever it is, it is.